But it seems like, Keefe, based on Abdul Carter's social media today, he's indicating, and it doesn't mean it's a done deal, but he's indicating that he's going to the Giants at 3.
Yeah, they had a Lawrence Taylor tweet.
A picture of Lawrence Taylor and said, once a Giant, always a Giant. Put that out. Cam Ward is the heavy betting favorite to go 1 overall to Tennessee. That's happening. Travis Hunter is the heavy betting favorite to go 2 to Cleveland. They signed Joe Flacco today, by the way.
Really?
Oh, did you not see this?
No,
yes,
I missed it.
They signed Joe Flacco today. So Kenny Pickett and Joe Flacco.
Wow.
Joe Flacco got into the playoffs.
I was going to say he
was hucking it all over the field 2 years ago.
Turned back into a pumpkin last year.
He did after like a game. He had like one good start for Indy, and I was like, I was in. We put him on his own tier, if you remember.
Oh, yeah, no, yeah.
Or the Colts at least on their own tier.
Frisky Flacco was the tier,
Yeah,
I believe.
something like that. Yeah, exactly. And so I was a believer in Flacco. He came crashing back down to earth. They bring him back. I don't know if that's an indication they're drafting a quarterback or not, but Hunter's
40 years old.
Hunter's the heavy favorite to go 2. Carter's indicating he's 3. So, okay. And Carter's visiting the Patriots on Monday. That's going to be the last of his 4 visits. He's only visiting the teams in the top 4. So let's say the apps are right. The prognosticators are right. And it goes Ward, Hunter, Carter. They're all gone. You're on the clock at 4. And I think a lot of us would like them to trade back in that scenario.
Yes.
Even I'm in that camp.
Yes.
My fear has been, all right, no one wants to trade with you. And I thought this kind of came to fruition yesterday. Jason Light, the GM of the Bucs, said there have been years where he'd like to trade down more than others, but he said this year it's all about what happens and who falls to them. He doesn't foresee as many teams. He doesn't say 0, but he doesn't foresee as many teams wanting to trade up across the league. Rap Sheet then quote tweeted that quote from Jason Light on Twitter. Mm-hmm. And he said, that's what it feels like, not a lot of teams trying to move up. And so, who knows? All it takes is one, just because 30 out of the 32 teams aren't looking to move up. If there's 1 or 2 that are, it could play into the Patriots' hand at pick 4. My fear is they're kind of stuck at 4, and building off what we were talking about yesterday, stuck because no one wants to trade up. And I also don't think they're in love with any of the players at 4. Like, that's my fear. And that would not be an out of left field opinion. No one really likes the draft.
Yeah.
No one's really looking to move up. Everyone's looking to move down, but they're having trouble to find a trading partner. If you're stuck at 4, now you're taking a player you don't really love, whether that's Campbell or Membu or Genty or Warren or Mason Graham or whomever, Jalen Walker, whoever that is. That's kind of my fear for the Patriots right now.
Well, I wonder if it's one of those things where they're thinking, well, that guy shouldn't be the 4th overall pick, but we really like him. And then I feel like you have to toss that mentality and say, take the guy that you think is the best.
This guy wouldn't be the 4th pick. Yeah, no, I agree.
This year,
you have to toss that mentality.
You might have to do it. We've seen years past where guys have certainly shocked a lot of the draft experts by taking guys way higher. I mean, hell, Belichick did it for years. Obviously, they weren't picking 4th overall, but there were times where sort of a head scratcher or a guy wasn't supposed to be anywhere near there. You might have to do that because that is the fear with trading down. Is if you have 3 guys that you like, or let's say 5 guys that you like, and 2 of them already picked, and now you're sitting there staring at 3 of them, and then you trade down too far, and now you miss out on all of them. So you have 5 guys on your team big board. You're picking 4th, and you don't get any of them. That's where you say, all right, people might think it's a reach, but who cares what other people think? We got to take the guy that we think is the best player at 4.
Yeah, and by the way, I would say if you think Campbell as a guard is the best player at 4, he's the best player on your board, then take him.
Yeah.
But if you're pushing him and hoping that he's a tackle, and that's the only reason you're taking him at 4, that's a bad mentality. If you're comfortable taking him as a guard at 4, well, then go ahead and draft him.
Yeah.
If you have questions about him as a tackle at 4, and that's why he's pushed up your board, then you should not. But generally, I agree with that. This isn't every draft. So that's why I'm okay with taking Genty at 4, assuming it goes what we think it's going to go. Ward, Hunter, Carter. I say we think that. I'm starting to believe that. I don't know if you're on board with that.
No, not yet. No, I don't think so.
You still think a quarterback is going before the Patriots?
Yes, sir.
Whether
2 of them.
Whether that's Shedeur, I'm sorry, a quarterback aside from Ward is going before the Patriots, whether that's Shedeur Sanders or it could be Jackson Dart. I was reading ESPN. I'll get you more details from this today. But they had Jordan Reed and Field Yates and Matt Miller all kind of giving the buzz they've heard leading up to the draft. He had a quick note in there that isn't directly related to the Patriots, but I thought it was interesting. He said one prediction from the same scout that he had talked to earlier in the story. He said Ole Miss quarterback Jackson Dart will be selected before Shedeur Sanders.
Okay.
According to this scout, multiple NFL teams have Dart ranked over Sanders and believe he has better physical traits, arm strength, mobility, and more developmental upside. So you're starting to hear that more and more the closer we get to the draft. That Dart is rising, Sanders is falling. That doesn't mean Dart will go 2 or 3 and go before the Patriots, but he might go 9 to the Saints while Sanders falls to Pittsburgh or something in the 20s. So
I just think these guys, like looking at the last 5 drafts. So last year, quarterbacks went 1, 2, 3, as well as 8, 10, 12. The year before they went 1, 2, 4. The year before that they went 1.
But you've said you think this is closer to the Pickett draft than most drafts, and that year Pickett went what?
So Pickett went 20. That's like the one outlier because the year before him it was 1, 2, 3, 11, 15. The year before that it was 1, 5, 6. So normally guys get pushed up. I think it is closer to the Pickett year, but that is an outlier for like horrible and is viewed as horrible.
There's like 2 of those in the last 10, 15 years. There was the who was the guy Buffalo took in the Geno Smith draft in the first round?
Oh, E.J. Manuel.
Thank you. E.J. Manuel, and then the Kenny Pickett draft. Those are like the 2 where quarterbacks did not go highly.
But there's so many examples of quarterbacks going 1, 2, and one of them being terrible, right? I mean, you can go back to, Bledsoe Meyer, for God's sakes, or Manning Leaf. Like, there's so many examples of that where, and I think this year, the top 3 teams, that is their need. So even without teams trading up, which I also wouldn't rule out the Jets at 7 and the Saints at 9, and then maybe even the Steelers at 21, even though that's a lot.
It's a big move.
It's a lot.
But if you're ever going to move way up the board, this is probably the draft to do it because no one's looking to move up.
So,
according to Rap Sheet and a GM in the league, Jason Light, a lot of teams aren't looking to move up. So Pittsburgh's going to move from 21.
Yeah.
You got to take their call.
So the Jets and Saints, it really comes down to if the Giants and Browns pass up on quarterbacks, those next 2 teams below the Patriots, how much do they like Sanders or Dart? Is their whole game plan, we need to walk away with one of those guys? Because if they are, I don't think they can just wait for them to fall in their lap at 9. Because at that point, it's a lot easier for Pittsburgh to trade up to 8 than it would be to trade up to 4 and all those different things. So it's really how those 4 quarterback needy teams feel about specifically Dart and Sanders.
So I think the Titans are going to take one.
Yep.
You don't think Flacco changes any calculus on the Browns?
It shouldn't.
Oh, no, but I don't think it should either.
No.
But do you think it is? Do you think it's an indication they're not taking a quarterback?
No.
Okay. And I don't believe this with the Giants. I think with Flacco it might because they made the playoffs 2 years ago with Flacco on the same team with Kevin Stefanski. Like, that one might change my opinion, to be honest.
So the last time
the Giants with Wilson and Winston, that doesn't change my opinion. I think they could still take a quarterback. I now don't think the Browns are after bringing in Flacco today.
So I think the Browns have less of a future at the position than the Giants do, and I don't think the Giants have much of one anyway. Like, I think Russell Wilson, you could convince yourself in your head that he starts for 2 years.
Yeah.
I don't think you can do that with Flacco. Do you know the last time Joe Flacco started 10 or more games?
Well, he didn't do it the Browns year. He didn't do it last year. Where was he even the year before that? Maybe the Jets. So, I don't know. 2019.
Yeah, 2017.
Wow.
So,
really?
Yeah. 2017, he started 16 games with Baltimore. And then after that, he's gone in the following years 9, 8, 4, 1, 4, 5, 6.
Okay.
So I don't think you can rely on him even for just this year, let alone future years.
You have his numbers in front of you, though, with Cleveland? From 2 years ago?
13 touchdowns, 8 picks. He went 4-1 as a starter.
Wow, it was only 5 games.
Yeah, remember? Well, the thing with that, remember Van Pelt? We dug into this because obviously he became the Pats offensive coordinator.
Honestly,
they used
13-8 is not as good as I remembered that.
Yeah, right.
He had a ton of interceptions, I think, in the last week of the season.
And he was comeback player of the year, and it was kind of like out of nowhere, but they also used 6 quarterbacks or something insane. They used a ton of quarterbacks that year.
That also might just be a fantasy thing. Like, I might just be thinking Flacco was awesome because for fantasy he was awesome. But for Amari Cooper and Njoku.
You can't rely on him. If you're the Giants, you're like, well, what if Russell... So the thing with Russell Wilson, his last year in Denver, he was actually kind of good.
Yeah, and the team was 500, right? 8 and 9.
They were all right, but they got mad about the contract. And then in Pittsburgh, they made the playoffs. I'm not saying he's great, but I think between guys like Russell Wilson, Joe Flacco, and if you want to toss in Aaron Rodgers, Wilson's the one you can rely on the most. But even they should probably still take a quarterback if they like one.
I didn't realize Flacco hasn't even started 10 games since 2017. That's pretty staggering. Because before you said that, I would have absolutely said I'd rather have Flacco than Wilson.
I just think this is a little bit safer.
I might rather have Winston than Wilson.
Than Wilson or Flacco? You mean?
No, I mean Winston over. Like
I'd rather have Winston over Flacco.
If I was the Giants, I'd rather start Winston than Wilson.
And who knows? Maybe he does if he has a good camp. But I just think the quarterback room's in two places. Cleveland's is way worse. Kenny Pickett and Joe Flacco shouldn't start multiple games. Pickett's useless.
Pickett until Flacco gets benched or hurt. Pickett won't be the starter.
But that to me is more of a sign that they're not going to actually start Kenny Pickett. They're going to start Flacco or maybe whoever they take it to.
Fair. So I don't know that anybody is really looking to move up in this draft, and that's according to, again, a GM in the league. Annie and Rappaport. Are the Patriots stuck at 4? You can jump in, 617-779-7937. You want more from that Draft Buzz article?
Yeah,
There's some good
Draft
stuff
Buzz.
Okay. The most fascinating thing you heard at a pro day workout, according to Field Yates, the most fascinating, out of everything he heard, the most fascinating thing he heard, and I can't help but think of the Patriots, the number of evaluators who are unbothered by Will Campbell's arm length really stands out to me. Yates wrote, I was hard-pressed to find an executive or coach who doesn't view LSU's Campbell as the best tackle of this class, and those are the same people that told me his arm length wasn't a concern on tape. Well, no, duh, it wasn't a concern on tape. We know that. Mm-hmm. The issue wasn't that you saw it on tape in college. The issue is he's going to be going against better athletes in the – I get that it wasn't an issue in college. Duh.
Yeah.
I know that. Right.
Yeah, a lot of guys can get by.
Well, of course it wasn't an issue on tape. That actually doesn't mean anything. I'm not ignoring his 32 and 5-inch.
Nope, 33.
32 – I'm sorry, and 5/8 of an inch arm length.
Well,
from
use
the
pro day length.
You want the pro day length?
33.
33. I'll add that.
Yep.
But most people I talk to are bullish on Campbell becoming a really good left tackle. He has excellent footwork, balance, and body control to hold up as a pass protector. So I don't know if Yates is talking to people in New England or not. My guess is he is.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know that for a fact. He says he was hard-pressed to find anybody that was bothered by Will Campbell and his arm length.
We went through a bunch of guys, and I know some of them play right tackle, but the other day, all right around the arm length would be Rashawn Slater, Joe Staley, and Penei Sewell. All pretty good tackles. Two of those guys on the right side, right?
Yeah.
But pretty solid NFL guys that
and Slater has longer arms than Campbell. Oh no, Slater might have been a pro day.
Slater's was the same. I think the other two guys were like 33 and like an eighth or however they measured it out to be. But if any of those guys were in this draft, you'd say, yeah, 4th pick. That makes sense. You could take him at 4.
Yeah. I mean, look, if you're telling me I could have Penei Sewell and he's a right tackle, I'd be like, okay, yeah, I'd be happy with that.
You can throw to him. He can throw it. He can do whatever you want. That guy's nuts.
If you told
Put him in motion.
If you told me Penei Sewell is a guard, I'd feel differently.
Yeah, no, I don't want the guard. And that's why I'm saying I'll say the guy was a good left tackle in the SEC. I think he's going to be a left tackle. And if he's a bust, he's a bust. But that's kind of, that's the risk in the draft.
And again, if you're taking him at 4 and you're telling me he's the best player on the board as a guard and you're not worried about moving him to guard and he would be the 4th best player in the draft as a guard, well, great, take him at 4. If you're wish casting that he's a tackle, then I think that's a mistake. Personally, Field Yates sounds like he disagrees. Matt Miller also had the ideal mock for the Patriots in here.
Ideal mock. Okay.
So, Yates did one for, the Carolina Panthers.
I know what the ideal mock is.
Jordan Reed did one for another team.
Quarterbacks go 1, 2, 3, and then you can pick whoever you want.
Oh, so he did not follow that suit.
Right.
He said, here's the ideal mock for the Pats. Will Campbell 4. Jaden Higgins 38. Jaden Higgins, I like Noel from Iowa State. I actually don't like Higgins.
Yeah.
Higgins is 6'4" and can't move.
I'm nervous about the third or the high second round wide receiver.
He had what? He had more offensive linemen, D tackles, etc. He had your guy Trevor Etienne in there. Here's his overview on the mock draft. He said the Patriots can check off several high priority needs by identifying a left tackle prospect to protect Drake May and Will Campbell and adding 2 playmakers at wide receiver and a running back capable of making an impact right away. We can't forget about adding front 7 defenders for new coach Mike Vrabel. So let's go with the scheme fits in Farmer and Kennard. That's Joshua Farmer out of Florida State and Kyle Kennard out of South Carolina. He also had him taking a wide receiver out of Arkansas, Isaac. Tell me how you'd pronounce this. T-E capital S-L-A-A. Isaac
Tesla.
Tesla?
Tesla. Yeah, Tesla.
Maybe he just changed the spelling because that's a real hot button.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Yeah, he doesn't want paint poured on his head.
People are selling them back.
Isaac Tesla, the wide receiver out of Arkansas. So that's how he has the ideal mock going. I personally would not feel great about that mock. It technically addresses needs, but I would not call that ideal in any way.
No, the mock that I like, the ideal mock to me would be you get somebody like Travis Hunter or Carter at 4, then you trade back into the late 20s and get a tackle there. That's like the ideal one.
Well,
You're like a generational player at top. You also fill a need with a guy that probably should go around that slot.
Maybe that's. I'm missing the news in here. When Rap Sheet says teams aren't really looking to move up.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, the Patriots are trapped at 4. Maybe it makes it easier for them to move up from 38.
Buying opportunity or sucker's bet?
Is it a buying opportunity or a sucker's bet? Can you move up from 38 to like 25? And will that be easier this year compared to most years?
Maybe. That's what people were trying to sell us after the whole Joe Milton trade. Not to open up that can of worms, but when that happened and you're moving up in the draft, so now you have, 2/5, 2/3? Like, does that make you a little bit more flexible to go up from 38? Then okay.
Do you think there's a big difference between Campbell at 4 and a guy like, take your pick, your best hoss available, Connerly? I happen to like Simmons. People like Banks. Do you think there's a big gap between Will Campbell and getting another guy at 25? Because to me, that's the much better approach. Move up from 38, go to 25, 26, 27, 28, somewhere in there, and hope. I mean, there needs to be one available. However high you're going to move up to get him, but go get your best hoss available in the 20s. I don't think there's a gap really at all between Campbell and those guys.
I think Campbell is better because there's also some questions about those guys too. They some of them are just right tackles, some of them are left tackles that might be guards, some of them are coming off injury. So I think there is a gap. Maybe I'm wrong here, but I think Will Campbell and then the next group is similar to Genty next group, Warren next group, and Abdul Carter next group. I think there's a
drop at all
guy
those
at
spots.
each position. That's how I kind of look at it.
The last day or so would tell you there's not a big gap between Carter and Jalen Walker, which I find interesting.
Well,
I disagree with it.
Right, same.
But some of the reporting around the league would indicate that. No, I think, honestly, as a left tackle, I think Simmons is a better bat to be a left tackle in the NFL than Campbell. If Campbell hits, well, great. You don't know he's going to hit. Simmons was a left tackle. He will be a left tackle. He has the size and frame to be a left tackle. I don't think there's any questions where he's going to play. The question with him is injury related.
Wasn't Simmons' arm length also 33 inches?
See, I thought he was longer.
Yeah, but maybe he was a combine.
Yeah, combine 33.
Combine 33.
Is that what it was? Pro day is probably 35.
I think. Yeah, stretch him out. Stretch him out. Let me double check this.
Yeah, please.
Arm length 33 inches on Josh Simmons.
There you go. Check that box.
Huh.
Check that box over Will Campbell.
Well, I mean, barely.
No, I know, but then...
But they say that's the magic number, right?
Yes, correct. It's like you can play this game all day. It's like, okay, well, that's only a half an inch. All right, fine. At some point, we have to say...
No, 3/8.
Well, half an inch.
Mm-hmm.
At some point...
I mean, if we're getting into the weeds here...
At some point, you can just say...
Which way are we rounding?
I always round up.
I always.
Double it, then round up.
Multiply by 2.5. So I at some point there's a cutoff in there. We all acknowledge that, right? Like at some point you can't have 30-inch arms. So somewhere there is a cutoff. And
but also part of me is like, if you're really good, you're really good. Like I think like Kyler Murray, you might have said is too short to play quarterback, and some might still be arguing that.
Yeah,
I think he's athletic enough that he can be good. It might be more about him like putting down Call of Duty and less how tall he is. Same with certain receivers, there might be a line. Like Anquan Bolden's 40 time was slow as hell, but
Puka,
good enough player.
Puka as well. Puka can run a fast 40.
And then they can still do it. So there might be exceptions. I'm with you. There's probably a general baseline for all these different metrics.
Well, but again,
that's why they do them.
And I know you're just throwing two examples off the top of your head, but Puka was a 5th-round pick.
Yeah.
You know, like Anquan Bolden was a 2nd-round pick
because of that.
So I mean, that's a lot different than at 4, where I'm trying to check as many boxes as possible. I might be more willing to take a risk the further down you go.